Hello and welcome to another podcast from Paul Seelig. This is episode 8, recorded from the Dream Castle Recording Studios in Homewood, Alabama. Tonight's show will be a little different than most of the other ones that you've heard because I will be doing this for a class project, and I will be doing that on teaching technologies. I've recorded this podcast in a way that you can listen to it while viewing the attending PowerPoint presentation, which may make it easy to do both or one at a time. It depends on your schedule and or level of interest. We've been asked to analyze 10 technology tools and measure them according to the Bloom's taxonomy of scale to see what level of teaching and learning students can do as we try to move them from the lowest level of learning, which is knowledge, which you would consider rote memorization, to comprehension, which is the ability to understand and restate in their own words or paraphrase or summarize or to translate, up through application where they can apply the learning and transfer these abstract or theoretical ideas to practical situations and identify connections and relationships and how they apply. Application is really where we try to push with secondary education, as we often talk about connections that students make. Past that, you're getting into what I would consider more of your higher education with analysis, synthesis, and evaluation on Bloom's taxonomy. I find it, in my experience, reaching an analysis where they can identify different components or determine arrangements. You can use logic or dissect semantics, may be a little too advanced. So I try to push towards application, and oftentimes I only get to reach comprehension with high school students. And this is also true working with special needs high schoolers and special needs adults. So some of the teaching tools that I have selected are geared towards special needs students and also transitional living and life skills training. There's a big push now with college and career readiness for us to ensure that we get our students that have IEPs ready for the workforce or for living on their own. So a lot of these apps and technology tools can do both. Now, that being said, a lot of these tools that you'd think can only be used or geared towards special education students can also be adapted with our general ed students, and this is especially true among elementary students, and we'll find out why as we discuss them. Going down my list in no particular order, we've got 10, and we got to think about, well, why is technology important? Well, we can think about in our own schooling or our work with students that technology has been a great resource and tool for our special needs students, and it really has helped them communicate with their peers, their teachers, and caregivers in ways that before they had not been able to do. You think about these iPad technologies, even Stephen Hawking uses some that allow them to communicate where in the past they were unable to do so, or it would have been very tedious, like manipulating a pointer with their mouth to point to letters or words or phrases or ideas, and how cumbersome that is. And now we can actually give many of our students a voice with adaptive technologies. But with so many options out there, it can be hard to sort through the good, the bad, and the ugly. How do we determine if free applications are really not as good as the ones we pay for, or is it worth paying for an application? And which platform is best? Are iPads the best? Do Androids work okay? Depending on the age of the student, would an iPad be less preferable to a smartphone, which they'd be more likely to carry with them anyways? But there's a lot of good questions that we should answer and look at ourselves. We're going to look at a small sample with these applications that are specifically engineered with student needs in mind. One of my favorites that I've encountered several times in the elementary and middle school age group with special needs students has been the Talk Tablet app. If you look on the PowerPoint presentation, it takes you to the website and their video, which shows you how it works. It's actually extraordinarily complex, but easy to use at the same time. There, you can put pictures of things like good morning with the sun, and the child can press it and it'll speak. You can use the voices that come preloaded with the program, or you can program a teacher or parent's voice in there, and it allows a child to speak for themselves because they can both answer and ask questions, and it's fully customizable and it's fairly easy to use. All of the different phrases or words can be divided and subdivided by categories. And this company really pioneered the talk-to-text feature that many of us use with different types of software. It is fully customizable, add your own pictures, new words and voices, intuitive, easy to use for teachers, parents, and most importantly, non-vocal students. This is mostly I've seen this on iPad platforms, and it runs even well on older ones. And especially, I like to see them used with those hard rubber armor for the iPads in case the child drops it. It really keeps them from getting damaged. The number 2 app on the list is Show Me QR. This is from the makers of Talk Tablet, and Show Me QR is probably one of my favorite apps, as it is one of the most innovative. It was designed by the makers of the Talk Tablet to help people with traumatic brain injury, and I believe they worked with the Department of Veterans Affairs on gearing this towards people with short-term memory loss due to IED explosions. What makes this very interesting is it's integrated with iPad or smartphones, and what the user would do is they have their device and they can scan QR codes, and those QR codes link to either short audio segments or short videos that are preloaded on the device. And this is used, for example, student who you're trying to transition to independent living when they wake up in the morning. It says scan me, and they'll scan it, and it says brush your teeth, or here are the 3 steps to make coffee. And it can have pictures, or it can have a short video, or the boss or caretaker for the day can leave messages that they can scan. What I find to be most helpful is for daily routinized tasks that people may have trouble remembering. This can help guide them through it in a safe way. They can go back and look at it again, and you follow the step by step. It's really quite amazing and interesting. And what also is helpful is these QR codes are proprietary, which means they don't link to any websites. And once the device is set up, it can be used anywhere. Now, the only downside is it's not completely dependent on being wireless, i.e., if you don't have 3G, 4G, or an internet connection for the device to be updated every night with the next batch of QR codes, then it won't work. But these days, this really not too much of a problem. Watch the video. Show Me QR. I think this sort of program is just in its infancy of being used, and I can really see how this is going to be super handy. ChoiceWorks is another app that has a time-based scheduler, morning, noon, night, and can be programmed with choices for a student. And it can be as simple as pictures of the sun and the moon for day and night for maybe very young children or people with developmental disabilities. Or it can be as complex as hour by hour for other students. And they can be programmed to remind them to perform certain tasks at certain times. And it's very easy for them to use. You can remind a child to do things such as it's time to brush your teeth, or it's time to make lunch, let's wash our hands. It can even deal with open-ended issues, as if during the day a child says, if I am angry, I can, and they would press the button, and maybe it would remind them of, if I'm angry, I can go count to 10, or take a walk, or get a drink of water. Number 4 is Social Skill Builder, and this comes both in full and light versions, which isn't unique for a lot of these apps. They'll come in a light version. You get many of the features, but they'll get you to pay however much it is to upgrade to the full version to get all the bells and whistles, and often is a little more polished. But the light version is often good enough to use if you don't need quite all the bells and whistles. This is a teaching tool that has short videos and it's geared towards elementary, high school, and older developmentally disabled adults. And each video is different, but most of them can be applied for any age level and are appropriate. But the social situation is featured in a short video. Maybe it shows a family going into a restaurant, and followed by multiple choice answers. If you watch the video, you'll see what I'm talking about. But what's interesting is the answers that it gives for the child to choose. More than one may be correct, and it's trying to get them to look at what is normal expected behavior. And the way they phrase it, I think, is useful too. In one of the videos, the boy has an outburst at a restaurant, and it asks, what unexpected behavior, not bad behavior or crazy behavior, did someone do, but what unexpected behavior did the boy do at the table? And it's just trying to inculcate normal social behaviors with people that may have a difficult time understanding what those are. I think of, many of the people with Asperger's or autism spectral disorder that I've worked with in the past, that normal behavior, it can be hard for them to understand social cues and grasp what normal or expected behavior is. Watch the video. Kahoot. Now, many teachers use this. This goes to general ed students, of course, and can be adapted for special needs students also. It's a very user-friendly based program, and it enables teachers to easily create multiple choice quizzes. It's a great method of reviewing information and a method of formative assessment. I don't think you can save grades or send them to like a spreadsheet for grading purposes, but I think you could use it as a teacher for formative assessments. And it's very quick. I can see schools that use Google Chrome or Chromebooks. That would be very helpful. Since I don't have an iPad, I'm not certain, but I am fairly sure that Kahoot is also available as an app in the Apple Store. Taggle, number 6, in no particular order, is another app that I like. It is similar to Wordle, which many of us are familiar with, and it allows students to create word clouds. However, Taggle can be used to set the clouds as a certain shape. Now think of how that may be handy. Helps students learn vocabulary, and the shape they use can be related to the unifying theme. For example, maybe you can set the shape to be a bus or a plane, or you're reading a specific novel. I'm not sure, let me think off the top of my head, like The Grapes of Wrath. Maybe you'd show a core, and then you can use Taggle to stick all the vocabulary words in it, like dusty, road, gas, tires, flats, things like this that they would believe are connected. And that pushes the understanding of things up a bit on the Bloom's taxonomy to where they are applying some of the information they know, and they are able to show some of that higher level learning. Because many of the other apps I feature so far really are just around knowledge and comprehension, where, okay, they are able to retrieve or recall knowledge, but some of it is also in the application, because you can use it to solve problems. I think of some of these apps, especially ones for the life skills, if they are using it for problem solving or to navigate daily life, not only are they recalling information, but they have to know how to apply the information in the right time, in the right circumstances. Google Earth. I was introduced to Google Earth in a casual way. I just, click around, kind of take tours, but I really didn't know what I was doing. However, I had a graduate level history class where we used this as a teaching tool in the class, and we would teach each other and come up with lesson plans based around it. And what's great about Google Earth is it can be fully adapted to any ability, and you can use it to teach subjects as diverse as math, say teaching perimeter and area, topography, and history. And you can also take field trips where one can tour important buildings, important areas, maybe historical antiques and archaeology sites. What's great is, why tell a student about Mount Everest or about a certain area when you can show them in a quite literal sense this area on Google Earth, navigate around it, and use it as a teaching tool. And students love to see where they live. I think that's a fair universal, and it can help with spatial understanding of areas. If a child knows maybe what a city block looks like, you can use that for measuring and for reference point. Excuse me. Number 8, iGet. This is a great tool also for children and adults with developmental disabilities. I particularly like the grocery shopping application that they have, because it breaks it down to manageable bite-sized bits that are based on photos that kind of tell a story. It's like a storyboard that you'll see for a movie, as it kind of has representative pictures showing different stages of how to do something. This is the same concept. And audio can be added and is fully customizable, so we can use it'll speak. You can program your own voice into it, so if you touch something, this is great because it reinforces not just the visual prompt that they're seeing, but also auditorily they're getting an instruction or a reminder. And this could be great, I think, for job coaches and those involved in transitional services who do a lot of this life skill training, such as let's learn how to do laundry, let's learn how to make a bed, let's learn how to prep a meal, let's learn how to grocery shop, because we can break things down into useful bite-sized pieces which can accomplish a task. And if you've worked with special needs students before, if it's a complex task, they'll be overwhelmed and they'll forget. So sometimes teaching from the very last step, moving backwards, works, but I've also found it helpful where you are able to have a reference, and B, it's broken down into one step at a time, and it's not overly complex. You can turn that difficult subject, if you think about it, and even make the act of making coffee involves many steps. You have to dump out the grounds from the day before. You have to fill out the carafe. You need to pour the carafe in the back of the coffee maker. You need to insert the carafe onto the hot plate. You need to place a filter in the coffee machine. You need to place grounds in the filter. You need to close it and then make sure you turn it on. So each of these things that we think and take for granted as being real simple, they're only simple because we have broken down and connected each of the different steps, and that allows them to move through the taxonomy, through application of these different types of actions. I know many of us, including myself, are PowerPoint rangers. I was hot stuff back in 1998 when I was the only person that knew how to operate the darn thing. However, time has marched on, and even PowerPoint and its brethren have received a facelift, and a new life has been breathed into the old standby of a slideshow by Google Slides. Of course, Google is on the cutting edge of just about everything, including educational products, and their Google Slides is no exception. The advantage of Google Slides, which is an alternative to PowerPoint, is the ease of use in the classroom that can be applied to collaboration with others in the class. For example, a PowerPoint generally has one author. However, Google Slides can be accessed by different students at the same time, or in different rooms, or at different times, who can all work on the slide at the same time and all be participants. And it's easy, since it's web-based. You don't have to worry about saving it on a flash drive and putting the file on someone else's computer and then making sure they save it to pick it up and put it back on the flash drive after it's been updated. It eliminates all this stuff. And you can share the URL with anybody and everybody and give them comment abilities or allow them to edit it or just let them view it, and it's as easy as sending an email or a link or texting the link to somebody. It can be accessed from any place and is easily shared. Now, it's not as feature-rich as PowerPoint is. However, how many of us truly have harnessed the tricks of PowerPoint? I know I haven't. I'm not really big into spending the time to do all of the manipulation of animations to get the old razzle-dazzle effect. Sometimes keeping it simple is keeping it effective. Last but not least, egg number 10 is Google Calendar, which I use every single day. My life revolves around what happens on the calendar. As I tell people, if it ain't on the calendar, it's not happening, or I can't guarantee it to happen because I won't even remember. So, why is Google Calendar important? Well, it's a very simple and intuitive calendar application. It may be simple, but it's useful and can be connected from any device: iPads, Android tablets, smartphones. You can set one up for your students, and you can have administrator rights, and they can look at it. You can share that with the parents at home. Teachers and students can keep up with class events and due dates and create their own schedules. Now, look at the video that I attached to the PowerPoint. You'll see how one of the teachers actually hacked her Google Calendars for the class. Now, a lot of these are very low-hanging fruit applications. Don't reach up very high on Bloom's taxonomy, but if it makes a student more efficient, if it aids in their recall, if it's something that takes some of the frustration out of the daily living, especially for our special needs students, I say do it, do it, do it, and we should really consider cost-saving measures. And we're not looking at just using technology to use technology, but as a very useful learning tool. Thank you.